Okay, so this is definitely the advanced section of working with the Redrum, and we're going to have a look at the wiring, a couple of gate cables that you can do at the back, and just ways that you can make your Redrum sound a little bit chunkier. Okay, now when we play our drum pattern, let's turn the pattern on so we can use the run button. We can see, we can see that our level is just going to the mixing desk, okay? So we have basic control over all the drum sounds. Now, of course, we can edit our volumes with the Redrum level knobs. But you don't get much of an idea. I'm just going to mute these patterns. M, by the way, really cool shortcut. M will mute a section on the track. So we don't get much of an idea on of what our volumes look like in terms of mixing desk levels. So the Redrum actually allows you to wire up to a mixing desk, and if you press your tab button on your keyboard, we get to see round the back of the Redrum. So at the moment we've got a stereo output which is going to just channels 1 and 2 on the mixing desk. Okay, I'm going to disconnect that, and what I'm going to do is wire up each of my drum hits like this. So 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so assuming you've done all of those, if we turn back round, we can now see the mixing desk tells us what the Redrum channels are. That's pretty cool. And if we play our drum pattern back, got a much better idea of our volume levels. So I might think that's a bit loud, and I can bring it down. Or I might decide to add some pan. And start working with the stereo field a little bit more. Really, really handy. Of course, once you start getting into insert effects, for those of you that are used to effects, you can now start putting effects in between the drum hits and the mixing desk. So let's go and have a look at how we can do this. So I'm going to create, for example, a reverb. So I want a reverb without any wires, and the tip to that is to hold down Shift when you create it. So I'm going to do Shift, right click. I'm just going to use the basic reverb, and when I turn it round, there's no wires. Great. So I'm going to find my snare, number 2. I'm going to disconnect it, just pull the wires out, and run number 2 to the input, and then the output up into the mixing desk. So when that plays back, very extreme. You get the idea. Works brilliantly with things like delays. So we could actually enter into the chain here. If we right click and create, say, a delay, that should work it automatically into the chain. Yeah, it has. It's actually gone Redrum, Redrum, reverb output into the delay, delay back out into the mixing desk. If we play that back and turn the wet down, so we can start to use our effects in order to make our drums sound a little bit more enticing. Okay, another thing I want to show you is the gating. Now, this is a really, really cool little function that you can do on the back of the Redrum. Okay, now let's find a sound we haven't really used. Have we used that one? Okay. I want to trigger that every time one of the hi-hats plays. Now that's quite an extreme example, but it's going to prove a point. So what we do is we go around the back Now I'm just going to hide the cables because they're quite messy. L on the keyboard hides your cables. And we're going to use gate in and gate out. So I think we said it was 6. No, 8. 8 is going to trigger 9. So if we come around the back here, we take a gate out of 8 and we do gate in to 9. And every time 8 plays, 9 now plays. You can actually turn the hi-hat down. You can hear that playing. Now if we solo it, it will only solo it, it will only hear it when the hi-hat is also playing. So we can use the wiring to trigger other drum hits in the Redrum, and it will go even further than that. Okay, I know we're working on the Redrum, but I just want to load up a subtractor, which is our synth. Now, what I'm going to do is tell the subtractor to play every time the bass drum plays. Okay, and again, we're going to use our gating cables. So our bass drum is on 1, and we're going to do gate out to the gate in on the subtractor. And we know it will connect because it goes red. And let's just solo that. And we can see the note is being triggered, but at the moment we can't hear anything. And that's because the subtractor has got no release on it. So I'm going to come back. Starting to kick in. Let's turn our octave down. Change our waveform. You could even start to add some, for example, and we'll look at subtractors later. So we're starting to generate shapes by triggering them from the Redrum. So hopefully you can see where that's going. We're using the Redrum round the back. Turn the cable on. We're using the Redrum to the drum kick to trigger what we're hearing in the subtractor. That's pretty advanced stuff, but that's pretty wicked stuff. So in this lesson, we've looked at how we can wire up the Redrum to its own mixing desk. We've looked at how we can get one drum sound to trigger another drum sound. And we've also looked at how we can get one drum hit to trigger a synth. There are other things that you can do as well. For example, you can use something to control the pitch. And when we look at the matrix in another lesson, you'll see how that can work. I hope that's been useful. Any feedback on these would be great. But make the most of the Redrum. It's one of the best instruments out there. Have fun.